Should you put a photograph on your medical CV? Today, I'm going to provide you an answer for this question. Spoiler alert, the answer is no. But you'll probably want to watch on to find out why I say that this is the case. Hi, I'm Anthony, the Career Doctor. I do videos for other doctors to help with career challenges on things like the job application process. If you're new to my channel and are finding the content useful, please think about subscribing. It really helps me out and it helps you too to know when there's new content up. Also, please turn on notifications so you can find out about when I post a new video. So, a question I do get asked about a lot is this issue of whether it's a good idea or not to put a photo on your medical CV. I've actually touched on this in a few videos already, but given that it does come up as a specific question, I thought I should do a video on it just dedicated to this issue. So let me just state this up front. I generally do not think it's a good idea to put a photo on your medical CV. And I don't think I'm alone. Most of the other people I talk to who sit on panels tend to agree with me, maybe 4 out of 5, 9 out of 10, that sort of thing. So let me take you through my rationale, because the first thing you will notice if you go on the web and look for examples of CVs is you see really nice looking CVs with people's photos on them. And why not? This is the age of digital communication. It wasn't as easy to put a photo on a document in the old days when I was applying for trainee jobs, but now it is. So that puts what I say about no photo on your CV right out of step, doesn't it? Right? Well, no, not exactly. I think it puts medicine out of step, and that's in fact my first point. Medicine is a conservative profession. We're just not used to seeing lots of photos on CVs still. So when we do as a panel, it kind of seems a bit out of step. Now, I know what you're thinking. I speak a lot about having a CV that stands out from others. So now I'm saying don't put a photo on it because that makes you stand out. Well, I guess the issue here is there is standing out for the right reasons and standing out for the wrong reasons. So putting your CV into a format which shows you're organized and can sell your best points to the panel is a good way of standing out. Whereas just adding a photo to your CV when maybe 1 or 2 other out of 20 also do that is probably not such a great way of standing out. But if that was the only reason, I would probably not be saying no to photos, to be honest. So here are 2 other reasons which I think are much more powerful ones for you to consider. The first one is that the process of selection remains very much a human-driven endeavour, which means that it's also riddled with human factors and biases. So why would you give that process yet another opportunity to maybe unfairly discount you by putting a photo on your CV? You see, by putting a photo on your CV, assuming that the panel does not know you already, you're giving them a chance to start implying things about you before you even get the chance to meet with them. And that's what we do. We don't mean to do it, but when we see a photograph of another human being, we start to make judgments about them. That's just the human factor. That's how Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg got started. So you're removing a chance to make your own first impression when you meet the panel by giving them that photo. So that's a better reason, in my opinion, to avoid the photograph on your medical CV. But here's a third and final reason for you. Many of you will have heard me talk about the Ladders survey. I'll pop a link to this in the description below. It's one that's often quoted across the internet. Basically, they got a bunch of recruiters to review CVs whilst using eye tracking software, and you can see some of the results here. This is how they found out that the average amount of time spent on an initial CV review was around 6 seconds. 6 seconds. That doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But here's what's even worse. You see, this is from the Ladders again, and it's what happens when you send in your LinkedIn CV. They spend a whole bunch of that 6 seconds looking at your photograph rather than looking at the things that you really want them to look at. So there you have it. no photos on your medical CV. But now there's always an exception to the rule, and it would be completely remiss of me not to discuss exceptions. So what I want to touch on here now is a couple of matters. Firstly, some selection panels are now requesting a photograph from candidates. So I imagine this will actually become a more regular thing, really. So, of course, if they request from you a photograph, include it. But think about getting a professional photograph done. Don't include a photograph from your wedding or graduation where you've had to kind of crop out other people and there's still like an arm sort of down the bottom there somewhere. Spend a few dollars. It's quite cheap these days to get yourself a reasonable looking photograph for your professional profile. The other thing I think I should say is a corollary, I suppose, to the above. I do think the day will come where it's seen as quite normal or expected to include a photograph on one's medical CV. And whilst we can all debate whether this is a good thing or not, as it introduces yet another opportunity for bias, I think it just will happen. If we consider that most of us already have some sort of online profile with a photograph already, whether that be LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, it's actually quite possible for someone to obtain a photograph of you from somewhere else. So again, you might want to consider whether that profile photograph is professional enough. Should you do something about updating that? So that's why I recommend not putting a photograph on your CV. Thanks for listening.